Good evening, all. This is Miguel, Aleixo from BRIK Projects. Another weekly show, our regular spot that we talk about BRIK projects in terms of what we're doing here in Australia in tokenizing real estate properties. Look, today in terms of, we start off with a great song there from our good friend over there in New York, SOS, with his You Oughta Know song is the name of the song by his one of his labels, music labels. Definitely not Dave. So thank you, SOS, for that great song. We always like to play some of his music before we start and while we're getting ourselves sorted here. So thank you, SOS. Look, we'll wait a couple of minutes just to people that might want to join live. It is 6 o'clock here in the afternoon, evening here in Brisbane, Australia. So we're coming to hopefully people in parts of the world where it is daylight, like obviously Asia, Europe are coming up, but they're waking up. Africa, so the US and Canada and the South American parts of Americas obviously sleeping this time of day, but there's always some possible night owls that might be up. But anyway, we do record the Twitter space. It's been recorded, obviously it's recorded. We also have our video recording, so we are video recording the session, so we were going to be putting on our YouTube and also across other platforms, our social media platforms at BRIK. Look, today's sort of wanted to focus around in terms of what's happening here, and specifically one of our focus areas for Brisbane. We do have properties in Brisbane and Gold Coast. Today we're just going to hone in in Brisbane in terms of what's happening, some of the properties around our focus area, especially the estate of Hamilton or suburb or estate of Hamilton and some of the surrounding areas around Hamilton. So going to be sort of talking about that in a bit more details, probably just to, we won't start the formalities yet of today's session, but there's some things probably just reflecting on the week. There was the Super Bowl during this week. A big congratulations to the Chiefs. Kansas City has won the Super Bowl. Big congrats. We were hoping for the Eagles. Our Aussie Jordan Mailata, who plays offensive tackle, he could have made history. We also had a kicker that was also on the field, an Aussie kicker. So they had two players. Australia had two players on the field for the Eagles, but obviously Jordan is actually quite a sensation, given that he's actually our first non-kicker. We've always had kickers involved in American football, but never an actual player on the field. So especially to make the Super Bowl, so it was quite a historical moment. Just fell short, the Eagles. So anyway, a great achievement for Jordan. As I said, he actually never played the game until 5 years ago. He played rugby league here in Australia, in Sydney. Played for the Rabbitohs, but never actually played NFL before until he got over to the States and had a go. And so he's doing well for himself. So we're proud of Jordan. Big congrats for such a great achievement, and no doubt you have a huge future ahead of you. So it was a big, obviously big spectacle, which I did watch myself as well here in Australia. Sort of reflecting on some of the other things that have been happening during the week. I've been doing my walks, BRIK walks, and showcasing this morning around in terms of what's happening around Hamilton. I've actually been taking some photos and videos, which I've actually been minting as NFTs to record them on the blockchain, on the Ravencoin blockchain. Also, during last week, there was some walks to the city. again, just taking pictures and videos around our Brisbane CBD city, and again, recording those on the blockchain. Happy to to share them around. So, but I think it's quite a great thing in terms of recording these moments on the blockchain, and specifically on the Ravencoin blockchain. So that's pretty much what's been happening during the past week. Probably just in terms of today's session, I have sort of pinned some tweets there. Just sort of go through these. So the first one there, just our Brisbane property, the BRIK property, and also our BRIK Dolphin property, the Dolphin property. Also from actually, in terms of we'll touch on those ones. The second pin tweet there is the properties sold in the area around Hamilton, our Hamilton estate, and the surrounding areas like Clayfield and Ascot. So there's some homes that I'll go through in terms of what's happened there. And the last one there is some for my morning walk around Hamilton. Minted those on the Ravencoin blockchain. There's photos and videos. So people can click on, they can go straight into the actual NFT and see the video embedded in the NFT, and also the photos. So that's been pinned there. Probably make the sort of we'll make a start. Just going through some of my usual points here of the weekly session. So weekly BRIK Q&A that I host every week, same time, same place, and it's about talking about in terms of update in terms of what's happening from our perspective, our properties, and some of the market updates around what we're doing as far as the property market and so forth. So today's session is about Brisbane, specifically focusing around the Brisbane properties that we are tokenizing, and some of the typical properties and what's been happening in terms of some of the recent sales, so people can sort of see in terms of get a feel for these properties in terms of what is happening with them in terms of the market as a general of these areas. And then we'll also have a bit of a Q&A. People can ask questions live here. There's some questions that come in throughout the week. And then we'll go to wrap up. But to start formalities, I'm Miguel Aleixo. I am the Managing Director and Co-Founder of BRIK BC Projects. We tokenize Australian luxury investment properties here in the areas of Brisbane, Gold Coast, and Sunshine Coast next year. So it's what we call the Southeast Queensland of Queensland, our state of Queensland. We are the 2032 Brisbane Olympic City. So it's a few years to go, but things are starting to, as far as infrastructure and some of the projects that are needed for the Olympics. Some of the civil works have started, some of the sites, Olympic Village, some things around there. But yeah, look, it's some really exciting things happening here as far as what's in terms of real estate property. But yeah, look, we always like to focus in today's session in terms of giving everybody an update in terms of what we're doing. But yeah, look, in terms of the properties at the moment, we've got the BRIK property, which is the Brisbane property, and we've got the BRIK Dolphin property, which is the Gold Coast property. So those two are live properties that anyone from anywhere in the world can actually buy a property token in those for $80 US each. So both koalas and dolphins, they're priced at the same cost of property. So we're trying to sell those ASAP so we can actually move on to the next ones we've got coming up. So we can start the journey on these ones as far as settling on them and be able to obviously rent them. There's a huge demand in the rental market here. So there's quite a shortages of accommodation properties for people to rent. So renting properties here is there's quite a big demand, so it's just not enough supply at this stage in terms of where the market sits. So these properties in particular, they're hotly in demand. So renting is actually a non-issue, which is forcing a lot of the rental prices to increase here consistently. So yeah, look, in terms of probably just to give an overview in terms of the top typical properties that we actually are tokenizing, we'd like to sit in that 3.6 million dollar US dollars, 3.6 million dollars total cost. That's where we see as at the moment a real sweet spot as far as good quality properties, luxury, and the demand in terms of when it comes to renting these properties out. So we see it as a real sweet spot. I mean, typically in terms of the area here of Hamilton, where we're focusing on, which takes in the surrounding areas too, like Ascot, Clayfield, Wooloowin, Albion, Hendra. So this is the circle around Hamilton. It's sort of, you got properties at the lower end, sort of that go for around 1.6 mil US at the lower end of the market, and then it's sort of got at the upper end of the market, which is more around the $8 million US type properties. I mean, there's a few more expensive than that, but sort of in that high end, that sort of tend to be more around the sort of the $8 million US total cost. So we're sitting sort of in the middle. In those of the market, where we see there's a real sweet spot, there's a lot of demand, and obviously a wider scope in terms as far as the market is concerned, in terms of people wanting to rent these type of properties. So we see a lot of executives that do rent out these properties that we tokenize, whether it be private companies, public companies, sort of obviously with the Olympics coming up, we're going to see more executives come to base here in terms of whether it's sponsors of companies and obviously involved with the Olympics in 2032. But the area that we're in is typical in terms of that area that's fairly close to the Brisbane CBD, where some of these companies are based. So we continue to see a huge demand in terms of these type of properties, from a rental perspective. So probably just to give you some an idea as to what these properties have been selling of recently. I've actually got in the pinned tweet there, the second one. You'll see that some of these recent sales. So these are properties that have actually increased in value over the last 2-3 years in particular. Some of these have had sort of a 30% to 40% increase in value. So this first one there, that's that one that sold late last year for $2.5 million US. So again, that has at 47 Hipwood Road, Hamilton. So again, it's a 4-bedroom home. So again, that was sold. Another one that was also recently sold, sort of late last year, for 3.1 mil. That was 110 Macy Street. Again, these are the typical properties that we do tokenize. So that one was 3.1 mil US. That's a 5-bedroom home. That one's a bit of a smaller block compared to one previously. So the next one, the third one there, the 118 Reed Street, Clayfield, that sold for 3.25 mil. So again, that one's quite a large home in terms of 6-bedroom, sort of typical Queenslander, sort of modern Hampton style Queensland. So you can see into some of these properties that are selling, and they continue to increase in price, just given the demand and supply, what's happening over here in that space there. But yeah, it's so that sort of gives you a bit of a snapshot. The typical properties we're tokenizing here in Hamilton and the surrounding areas, and what's been actually selling of recently. So as I said, continues to be a demand for this type of properties. But yeah, that was just sort of a quick summary there of that. Again, it's if there's any questions that people want to come up and ask, by all means, or else, if there's no questions, I always like prefer to take questions from the audience in a Twitter space. But if not, there's actually one that came in during the week, and the question was just got written here. What happens if the properties, so we sort of typically focus around $3.6 million total cost. What happens if the properties that we obviously keep go up in value, and in terms of us buying them, what happens if they actually end up being more, given obviously with that property token prices per token is around, we'd like to keep it under $100, like the current ones are $80 each, both the koala and dolphin. And the question was, what happens if the property goes up in price? And basically, what we do, we actually increase the number of tokens. So we keep the property tokens under $100 US, just to make it accessible to easy for anybody to actually buy these property tokens. So basically, what we simply do, just increase the number of tokens to get us that. Obviously, if it's a 3.6 mil, if it's a $4 million property, we just obviously increase the number of tokens to make up that amount that we need to sell in terms of property tokens to be able to buy that property. So that's the answer on that one. But yeah, I think if there was no other questions that I can see here, if they came in during the week, there was just that one there. Again, if there's no other questions there, we'll start the wrap up. Probably this one thing that we got. We've got our weekly show tomorrow. A weekly show where what is real estate tokenization, and tomorrow we got a special guest. So we do I host a what is real estate tokenization show, which is basically generic around in terms of the industry and the colleagues, and we have different guests that we have on, special guests like tomorrow. And tomorrow we've got Mark Fiddleman, who is tokenizing real estate based in US. So we're going to hear from Mark in terms of what he's up to over there in the US, and give us a bit of an insight and in terms of where he's at the moment and what's the vision for his real estate tokenization platform. So look forward to having a chat with Mark, and hope people can join us. It is a live show on Twitter Space, so I'll put the tweets up after this in terms of the links for it. So, but yeah, thank you for listening to me. If there's any questions, if you listen to this, the recording, if there's any questions, just DM me. My Twitter Spaces, my Twitter Space DM's always open. So send us a DM. Also on other platforms, but we are very active on Twitter. So if there's any questions, let us know. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, depending what part of the world you're at. And same place, same time next week. Take care. Bye for now.